Hello. And happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. We bless all the fathers that are here in the sanctuary, all the fathers in Zoom land and YouTube and Facebook and wherever they may be. We bless all the fathers. And we celebrate you. We celebrate you. Yesterday we found a special way to celebrate Father's Day by going out to Higgs Beach and making a sand sculpture in the shape of a heart. And that was actually Lori's suggestion. Thank you, Lori, to go out there and do that. And it was beautiful. It was fun. It was a wonderful way to play in the sand, great, sand therapy. And it was also wonderful to see all the people coming by and taking pictures. And Mary Ellen has some for us to see in the announcements. And the children created these wonderful shells and stones with love, peace, unity, painted hearts that were placed upon this sand sculpture. And I would tell you that it was planned this way, but this would not be the truth. It was also Juneteenth, yesterday. Juneteenth. And here we were placing this heart and blessing the sand and blessing all who would see this heart right next to the marker for the African cemetery, right there. And so I'll share a little bit about that. So Juneteenth is commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln passed the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that over 3 million slaves in our Confederate states were to be freed. However, over 2 years before that message reached the folks in Texas. And so it was in 1865 that the Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, with this news for the residents there. And the slaves were freed, and that was on June 19th. Now in Texas, June 19th has been celebrated every year. And it actually became a state holiday there in 1980. And I will admit to you, I have been very ignorant of this holiday until probably the last 3 years. And now it is a national holiday. And as we were setting up there yesterday, there was a tent set up, and I thought, this is wonderful. There's something else going on out here today, but that's where the opening ceremony was, right there, Friday night. And so for those of you who maybe it's been a while since you've read the little placard out there. It is a plaque for the cemetery of the Africans there at Higgs Beach that says that near this site lies the remains of 294 African men, women, and children who in 1860 were being transported in illegal slave ships to Cuba. And those 3 ships were intercepted by the U.S. Navy. And those slaves were rescued. They were provided with food, clothing, shelter, medical treatment. However, they had spent a long time on that ship, confined in unsanitary and inhumane conditions, and 294 of them died. It was later that same year that over 1,000 returned to Africa, were returned on ships, which means that some remained here. I can't imagine getting back on a ship after going through that, but over 1,000 of them did return to Africa, and the rest remained here in Key West, and we have that history that's part of who we are. Well, this morning we pick back up on where we left off last week with the parable of the prodigal son, the parable of the lost son, or the parable of the 2 brothers. And remember, a parable is simply a story that illustrates a moral or a spiritual meaning. It's actually also allegorical, so it has hitting meanings as well as the other story. And if we remember the two sons last week, we considered both of them lost. There was the younger son who went off to the distant land, spent all his money, was lost from the home of his father, was lost from remembering who he was, and came home to his father. He found himself and came home to his father. The elder son also was lost. Even though he had remained there at home, he was lost to the love of his father, for he felt bitter, he felt resentment, and he felt jealousy. And so both sons were lost. And so this morning, I'd like you to sit back and listen and feel the voice and the actions of the Father in this scripture that comes to us from the Gospel of Luke. Jesus is speaking, and he said, "There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of property that falls to me.' And he divided his living between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took his journey into the far country, where he squandered his property in loose living. And when he had spent everything, a great famine arose in that country, and he began to be in want. So he went and joined himself to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have fed on the pods that the swine ate, but no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was yet at a distance, his father saw him and had compassion, and he ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quickly bring him the finest robe, place a ring on his finger, bring sandals for his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and make merry. For this my son was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found.' And they began to make merry. Now his elder son was in the field. As he came and drew to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what this meant. And he said to him, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him safe and sound.' But he was angry, the elder son, and refused to go in. But his father came out and entreated him. 'Lo, these many years I've served you and never disobeyed your command, yet you never gave me a kid, a goat, that I might make merry with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your living with harlots, you killed for him the fatted calf.' And the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to make merry and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and now is found.'" This has also been called the parable of the loving father, or the parable of the forgiving father. And so we look especially at the father in this story. It begins with the younger son saying to him, "I want what's mine. I want my inheritance, and I want it now." And nowhere in the story do we hear the father being resistant. He complies with this, even though it goes against all tradition, it goes against everything that is respectful. He gives his son what he asks for. And we have to believe that the father's heart was breaking. The father's heart was breaking because here's his youngest son. He's going to leave him. He's going to physically leave home and go off into the distant land. He won't be there for the father to see. He won't be there for the father to hug. And you have to know that he heard the same stories that the elder son heard about squandering his money on harlots. And so his heart had to have also been breaking about the choices that his son was making. Has your heart ever broken because of the decisions of one of your children or someone that you love? It's part of the growing process. It's part of the process for our children to make decisions, whether we agree with them or not. And yet, those growing pains that we experience as we make these decisions expand beyond us. They extend beyond us. For those who we love are also feeling the pain. They want to protect. We want to protect our children. Have you ever said or ever heard, "Learn from my mistakes"? It doesn't work that way. It didn't work that way for us. It's not going to work that way for our kids. We so want those we love to learn from mistakes that we've made, to learn from pain that we've gone through so that they are spared from that pain. But it just doesn't work that way. Have you ever perhaps broken one of your parents' hearts with decisions, choices that you've made? Of course. Of course. That's how we grow. That's how we mature emotionally and spiritually, is by making those choices, living with those decisions. And it's hard as parents. It's hard as children. It's just part of the human condition. And it's just how it works. But here in this story, we see that the father tossed aside all protocol. He tossed aside everything that was tradition when he saw his son coming from afar. His heart was filled with compassion. He ran to his son. He ran to his son, and that was also totally against how the patriarch was to be treated. The patriarch was to be treated with respect, and his young ones, his children, were to come to him with respect. He threw that aside and he ran across the field, threw his arms around his child and kissed him. And the son is trying to say, "Please forgive me. I've sinned against you. I just want to be your servant." And he's trying to grovel, and the father is ordering. He's ordering the servants, bring him the best robe. Put a ring on his finger. His clothes are all tattered. Put shoes on his feet. Put sandals on his feet. And let's have a party. Let's have a party. For my son was dead and now he's alive. He was lost and now he's found. And so have you ever found yourself in that kind of situation where protocol, where what was socially accepted said to do this, and you decided you were going to be true to your nature, to your loving nature, and the heck with protocol, and just absolutely be authentically yourself? Maybe you weren't really supposed to tell that person socially, acceptably, how you feel, and you found yourself just telling them how much you admire and love and respect them because it came from your heart and you felt moved to do so. You felt Spirit just absolutely telling you, do this, say this, go there. And we see that. We see that in this father. He remains steadfast in his love of both his younger son and his elder son, beseeching his elder son, come in, enjoy the party. And the elder son complaining and really accusing the father of not treating him as well. But the Father just absolutely standing steadfast in that love and repeating, your brother was dead, now he's alive. He was lost, and now he is found. And so we see this Father so filled with joy. And we can read into this the tenderness and the exuberance and the joy. And in that, he is coming from a space that is more than the human love of an earthly father. We know that what is happening is that he is in touch with the divine. His actions are being enhanced by the love and the mercy of the Christ consciousness. And this is the lesson that Jesus was trying to teach us in this parable. It was not only about fathers and sons, it was that we, all of us, are to set protocol aside and love one another. Love out loud, love outrageously. Be authentically yourself in that space of love. Now, last week I shared a little with you about the author, Henri Nouwen, who is a Dutch Catholic priest from the 20th century. He was a professor as well as an author and a theologian. That he had studied the portrait of Rembrandt from the 17th century called The Return of the Prodigal Son. And he really studied the Father and the lighting of this painting. And in his works, he stated that he saw the inner light of old age. Now, I'm going to change that. We're going to adapt that, okay? I would call it the inner light of wisdom, the inner light of wisdom that is not distracted by ego or pride. In the painting, he sees that there are actually two different hands of the Father resting on the Son's shoulders. One is more masculine, is a little bit larger, and you can see in the painting there's pressure, like he's holding safely his son. The other hand is a little bit more feminine and is lightly placed on the shoulder, representing both the masculine and the feminine, more of the love and protectiveness. And that even the robe itself was a bit feminine because it's a robe and it flows. And it is what was worn there, and it represented a place in society of stature, someone of respect, and someone who knows who he is, confident in who he is. Beautiful depiction in this painting of some of the inner aspects of this story. And so today we really celebrate. We celebrate the fathers that find a way to be both gentle and strong. For our fathers, that was rarely modeled for them. That just wasn't the way. And yet, here it is, 2,000 years ago, in all its glory, this depiction of a father being loving, tender, and strong, grounded in the divine, grounded in spiritual love and spiritual law. And so we celebrate fathers of all ages, all races, all religions, and all sexes. For we recognize that this aspect of love and strength is within each one of us. We all possess feminine and masculine qualities, or what we call feminine and masculine qualities, and we express them in different times in our lives. Well, Mary Ellen has put together a beautiful tribute from the pictures that were sent in, and so we're going to take a few minutes to see this wonderful tribute, and then I'll join you again.
heard my dad say that he loved me was on Father's Day. I was a grown man, I was on the road. It was just the two of us talking on a pay telephone. Yeah, we talked to this, then we talked to that. We talked about fishing, talked about the Cubs and Mets. Then I said I had to go. That's when he said, I love you, son. I said, I love you too. And then we both hung up. I walked away, and tears came down like rain falling gently upon fallow ground. I felt the fields of my heart turn green from those few small words my father said to me. My father was a simple man, played cards on Sunday and grew a garden out back. He worked long days down on the foundry floor, and after supper time, pedal vacuum sweepers door to door. Yeah, and folks back then, they kept their feelings hid, kept them bottled up inside, safe under lid. So I'm glad he found the strength to say the way he felt about me on that Father's Day. I walked away, and tears came down like a rain falling gently upon fallow ground. I felt the fields of my heart turn green from those few small words my father said to me. Let it rain, let it rain. The strange thing about it is, I never knew I had a hole inside that big, but I guess I did, because there it was, crying right out loud, saying fill me up. Yeah, so now I try to do my best to tell my kids I love them every chance I get. It's funny how a few small words can run so deep, make a baby smile and make a grown man weep. I walked away, and tears came down like rain falling gently upon fallow ground. I felt the fields of my heart turn green from those few small words my father said.
Great job, Mary. And so God bless you. God bless you this Father's Day. Please reach out today. Let somewhere, someone you know, let you know that you love them, you respect them, you honor them, that you admire them. And we applaud you, fathers. Thank you for being who you are. And so it is.